Even if you avoid becoming a failed franchise starter, and do launch an honest-to-goodness franchise, there are still potential struggles ahead. A franchise might sputter out after only one or two sequels. A long-running franchise might suddenly screech to a halt after a particularly ill-received entry. And, in some cases, a franchise might suffer a series of starts and stops as it goes along, refusing to die but struggling to find long-running momentum. That's certainly the case with the Halloween series, one of the most successful horror franchises around, but one that has had to be rethought and resurrected on numerous occasions. The first time the series seemed potentially dead for good was after 1982's Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, the controversial, divisive entry which, at the behest of series creators and producers John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, disregarded the Michael Myers slasher narrative of the first two entries, and instead offered an entirely different folklore, witchcraft, and sci-fi inspired tale of an evil novelty company looking to murder the world's children with supernatural Halloween masks. It was Carpenter and Hill's hope the deviation would allow the Halloween franchise to transition into a permanent anthology format, with different types of Halloween-set stories told in each installment. But while Halloween 3's reputation has grown over the years, developing a large cult following and argued by many to be one of the best films in the entire series, there's no denying it was seen as a financial underperformer and, more importantly, a critical and audience disappointment upon its release. Many were upset with the series' new direction, and felt it was a betrayal of the formula established in the previous movies. This included series executive producer Mustafa Akkad, who was eager to keep the franchise going, but only under one condition: it had to bring back Michael Myers and the original slasher formula. At first, even though their hearts weren't entirely in it, Carpenter and Hill attempted to play ball, teaming with novelist Dennis Etchison to write a Halloween 4 script which would see Myers resurrected as a more ghost-like supernatural figure, one who would even grow to kaiju-like giant size at one point. Akkad rejected this approach, calling the script too cerebral. Carpenter and Hill realized they would probably never see eye to eye with Akkad, who seemingly just wanted to retread old dependable tropes, and so they sold off their rights to the franchise, giving full control to Akkad. He quickly set about crafting a Halloween 4 that would get back to the basics, and in fact, to make sure audiences understood this was the case, it was right there in the name: Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. A screenwriter named Alan B. McElroy was hired, and because of an impending writer's strike, he was forced to develop a new concept, pitch the idea, and write the entire script in just under 11 days. And while Carpenter had hoped fellow horror master Joe Dante would direct his giant Michael Myers version, the task of directing the actual Halloween 4 fell to Dwight H. Little, who so far had only directed 3 low-budget action movies and was looking to break into studio union filmmaking. While Halloween 4 ultimately only made a few million more than Halloween 3, the response from audiences was much more positive, with many applauding the film's return to formula. The franchise was officially saved, with 2 more direct sequels to Part 4, before a series of sequel reboots and remakes that have kept the franchise alive up to modern day. Little and McElroy had accomplished exactly what Akkad had hoped for, and the director-writer duo would work together 2 more times. Ironically, their third and final collaboration would feel drastically different than their Halloween 4 experience, but would actually feel more akin to the Halloween 3 fallout, as this time they would attempt to start a new series, but end up with a sputtering, fractured franchise that would be forced to abandon original plans and instead pivot to a new direction for its next entry. The year is 2011, and Anchor Bay Entertainment is ready to finally give a direct-to-video debut to a long-finished, and before that, long-in-the-works, video game adaptation, and in the process hopefully launch the next big sci-fi action franchise with Tekken. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Welcome once again to Failure to Franchise, the show dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires. This is Trev.
And I'm Chris, here for all things Liam Neeson Euro trash revenge films.
Oh, okay. You might have to explain that one to me a little bit as we go along.
Well, Tekken, Taken, I screwed up.
Oh, no. Yeah, see, I was worried this might happen. Funny that you would make that mistake too, because I don't know if you know this, but there's actually a lot of Taken movies, and I think even a TV show. Am I right on this? Do you think like a Taken TV show?
Maybe. I think there's 3, right, with Liam Neeson. I know I saw all 3 in theaters. Mm-hmm. The third one being abhorrent.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's more than that, but usually every other Liam Neeson is seemingly a Taken offshoot. It feels, you know what I mean? Like it's just all in the same vein.
He's basically made nothing but Taken movies since Taken. But we're getting off topic here, because what we should really be focusing on is the end, the bitter end. I don't know, the welcome end. We'll see, to our 2-month series, Fighting VideoLAMES.
Chicken, 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 great chicken, chicken.
Our look at failed adaptations of fighting video games. And this time we're, so we've done 2 Street Fighter movies, and then last time we looked at DOA, Dead or Alive. And for this episode, we're looking at an adaptation of one of the big ones, right? One of the big fighting game franchises, at least. And that is 2009's Tekken. Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about Tekken?
Oh, that's the joke.
Yeah. Oh, you just got your own joke. Okay.
Okay.
And we're up to a good start if you were like, yeah, I wrote a joke and didn't even get it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, this one is... First of all, can I say, I know you mentioned the 3 movies we already did. Street Fighter, the original 90s one, the Chun-Li reboot one, and then DOA, Dead or Alive. I have to say, listeners, if you haven't listened to those episodes, I strongly recommend. All 3, I think me and Trev both would agree, very proud of them, very fun. And then especially in the third one, we had a special guest, Jackie Charnaga, who also guested on Vampire Academy 2 years ago. So we had our first returner. So I just want to get that out of the way. I really love this series. Like, despite what we had said, pro or con, of each movie, this has been fun. I just want to get that out the bat before we finish off with Tekken. So there you go.
Well, that's good, because even after this episode, we got one more of these to come along at some point in the future. So
we do. Okay, this one, Tekken from 2010, is directed by Dwight H. Little. He directed films such as Free Willy 2, Murder at 1600. He did a lot of network TV work, and he directed Halloween 4. This is written by the writer of Halloween 4, actually. This is another joint venture between the two, Alan B. McElroy. He also wrote the Wrong Turn saga, I guess. I mean, I guess they went on without him, but he created the franchise. So he knows how to start a franchise. And he is an F2F alum. He wrote Spawn, which I think...
One of your favorites.
I think is my most hated one that we did here.
That's kind of a wild take, but I remember the vitriol you had for that movie. Yeah.
Yes, I think... You know what, listener? Go listen back to it. I can't remember, so go listen to it. Okay, the budget for this one is $30 million. Worldwide, Trev, this is an interesting one because it only made $1.6 million worldwide, which sounds absolutely horrendous. But I have to explain right off the top that this was mostly direct-to-video. Or direct-to-DVD. The reason why I just bring that up at the top is the producer, Stephen Paul, which we'll mention a few times, he actually took the film after it was done to the American Film Market Festival in search of distribution, and nobody was biting. The WB bought it to distribute it for Japan, and in like Singapore and Philippines versus with Pioneer Films, but nobody was biting for Western distribution. But Anchor Bay bought it up to release it to direct to DVD. So I wanted to throw that out in the beginning of this. 1.6 million sucks, obviously, but it did go direct to DVD. So
I'm glad you pointed that out, because even right off the top, people might have noticed when I started this episode, I said 2009's Tekken, and then you said 2010. We should point out that this is where the confusion comes from, because it did screen at a theater as part of the American Film Market in 2009. it was released in other markets like Japan in 2010, and then didn't come out in America on straight to DVD until 2011, actually. So when you like, how we always do the episode title and you have the name of the movie and then the year, we could honestly just put Tekken and then in parentheses 2009/2010/2011 because this one kind of covers the gamut. Marks. Yeah. And before we go any further, let's address the other elephant in the room, shall we? Because we've had at least one of our listeners has already reached out to say, hey, wait a minute, you guys are doing Tekken. There is a Tekken 2. There's a second Tekken movie. What are you guys doing? We want you to know we are not unaware of this. Now, to be fair, we were when we made the list initially. we didn't know. I think I was really pretty unaware of this movie in general, and I think I just came across it when like looking at lists of like failed franchise starters to create our master list, and threw it on there. And it wasn't until we started to put together this series that I think it was actually because I went to go look at this movie to see where it's playing, and I was like, oh, it's got to be on Tubi, right? Yes, it is, of course. And then it was also like, oh, well, there's Tekken 2 also, and that kind of like worried me. And then I contacted you about it, and we talked about, and this is what we'll talk about in the episode, this is actually an opportunity for us to talk about a different kind of failed franchise starter. Yeah. One in that, yes, there is a sequel. Yes, it's, for the most part, I guess you'd say it's like a direct, or it's from some of the same people and everything. But we'll talk later about how it is not the continuation they ever intended to do, and in fact, it's kind of significant to say like that actually represents how something went wrong with this one. What Tekken 2 ends up being, right? So we won't always kind of like look at those kind of things like this, but I think it was a great opportunity for us to examine a different version of this.
Yeah, we'll get to it, but there's a argument to be made that we should be covering that movie too.
Yes. Yeah. Good God.
Okay. Let's talk about Tekken itself. In the other 3 episodes, we've talked at length about our history with not Street Fighter alone, but just fighting video games, arcades, this and that. So I don't really want to square in on that, like really talk about that much here. I do want to talk about Tekken in general, just more precise. And, this is a series that started in 1994. So it's one of those long-running ones, just like Street Fighter and just like DOA. Tekken 8 came out last year in 2024. So this is ongoing. It's I had read somewhere that in 2015 or something, it has the Guinness World Record of like ongoing stories for a video game. It's like it's never been rebooted, it's never been retconned, there's never been revisions. It's an ongoing story. And then this is a YouTuber coined this for the franchise, and I'm going to steal it. But he coined it a supernatural Shakespearean family feud. And I just loved that. So, off the bat, Trev, Tekken, what is your familiarity with the property? And let's go from there.
This is going to be very easy. I think every time you ask that question, you fear they're in for like a long Trevor rant. But this one I can tell you, I have zero history with Tekken. Yeah, this is not a series I ever played. So as you said, you can go back and listen to the previous episodes to hear, the fighting video game franchises I was a fan of and was connected to when I was younger. I was obviously always aware of Tekken, just as like a name, and I knew it was a popular series. But yeah, until I sat down to watch this movie and did a little research for this, I couldn't have been able to tell you what even the word Tekken means or why the games are called that. I just knew it was like the other fighting franchise. And even if you had asked me, if you had put me on the spot and said, hey, what's number 3 after Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, I might have still said Tekken. I just never played any of them, so I didn't really know anything about it. I think maybe I had some like vague memory of this. That's the one that has the panda in it, because because that's silly. But I have no history with this. What about you?
Yeah, the only thing that I know of this one is through my history and ongoing present day knowledge of Super Smash Brothers. So I had mentioned that you can play as Ryu and Ken in the Smash Ultimate, but you can play as Kazuya. So actually this past weekend I was with my buddies playing Smash and I played as Kazuya for research, obviously. And there's a stage that we like to play on that game, Mishima's Dojo, which is like a great breakable stage. It's a lot of fun. But my familiarity and knowledge comes from Smash Bros, which is just kind of like a fun little thing. It's like a great equalizer, that game, you know? So I know a little bit about Kazuya's demon powers and supernatural abilities, and I sort of know about, like I said, the family feud that goes on within the Mishima bloodline, which is like the main crux of the plot of the entire franchise. But I have never played a Tekken game. I don't even think I've played it like at an arcade. I very familiar with the name and like the logo. You know what I mean? Like it's very iconic. Like all of these games are. Like it's fun to do this series is realizing how iconic a lot of this imagery is. Like I know you mentioned like the panda or whatever, right? Like there are animal fighters in Tekken, so that's a big part of it. I will say I usually get like Soul Calibur and Tekken mixed up. And the only reason that I remember Soul Calibur a little bit better is because they have the gimmick of adding other IP characters, you know, every once in a while. Like like they added, I think Yoda one time, like back when the prequels were coming out.
Something Mortal Kombat does now, right? So.
Yes, correct. So, yeah, a little less. I guess what we're both getting at is Tekken doesn't mean much to us, like emotionally. You know, like we don't have great fond memories of Tekken like we do with maybe the other stuff that we've been talking about. But like I said, it's friggin' successful. like this is a we problem, an us problem.
Yeah,
you know?
That's the crazy thing when you get into the research is like I said, I knew it was popular, but I didn't realize like kind of how big it was and the fact that it was still going with the same continuity. And it is always interesting to find out about something that you've just missed somehow, right? And it's like one thing to miss something when it's not tangentially involved in any kind of genre you care about, but the fact that you and I were both like Mortal Kombat fans and Street Fighter fans, and this one just entirely escaped us because, as you said, this one was in the arcade and on home consoles, and I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I mean, I played a lot of shitty fighting games when I was younger too, so like, why was I not playing the really popular series? I have no answer for that, honestly, other than the fact that it just always was kind of like it seemed like the third choice, right? It never quite seemed like it got up to the same level as the big two. It certainly didn't eclipse them. And it's funny that you said you get this confused with Soul Calibur, because I feel like in my head, at least the early Tekken games, and I know there's, reading some of the research, maybe there's even a reason for this. I think you could have shown me like clips of Virtua Fighter and Tekken and been like, which one's which? And I might have got those confused a little bit, Yeah. So yeah, just, I think the other like visual I kind of had some like sense of was Jin with like those red gloves, and I think that's just because he's probably on the cover of some of the games. Because like once those popped up in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, that looks familiar.
And the haircut, like that swoop up in his hair, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah. So no, it's definitely one of those franchises where, like you said, the name recognition I was very aware of, but going into the movie, total blank slate.
Two things I love that you mentioned just now. You said it's like the third, of the fighting games you think about. It is literally the third best-selling fighting game franchise.
Okay.
As of 2024, it's sold over 58 million copies. And then the second,
which one's number one? Is it Mortal Kombat or is it Street Fighter?
That's something that I should know. That's interesting. I don't know. Pause. Let's check.
Okay.
Best-selling fighting. This is what it is in modern times. I can just Google it.
Yeah, it's great.
We could have just made it up and bullshitted our way through. Okay, so Video Game Sales Wiki says here, Mortal Kombat, Super Smash Brothers, and then Tekken. Mm-hmm. So Mortal Kombat 85 million, Super Smash Bros 75.6 million, Dragon Ball fighting game 65.8, Tekken 58 million plus, and then Street Fighter after that. So yeah, it's like third or fourth. So it's right there. Wow. Well, Mortal Kombat though, yeah, you nailed it right away.
Yeah.
Smash Bros, baby.
Yeah, let's not bury the lead. You just mentioned that you had another Smash Bros night recently. Did you guys did you get all oiled up and stripped down to your underwear and?
No. This one was an impromptu, unofficial night, so it was only a few of us. So only mild, heavy petting this time.
Okay.
Yeah. You also mentioned the Virtua Fighter connection. Great segue for how Tekken was developed. And not to get in the weeds or anything, because it is a little boring, but Bandai Namco basically never meant to make a fighting game. They were internally testing with 3D character models and animation, and basically Namco headhunted people at Virtua Fighter to come over to their team and basically steal it.
Yeah.
So that's funny that you made the connection that it looks like Virtua Fighter. Well, you have basically the same team making the same game. So
sure,
that's the difference.
I mean, we've all been there, right? When you're tooling around, farting around in some little project and you accidentally create a 30-year, multi-million-dollar ongoing franchise.
Yeah, duh.
Primarily by stealing like the core like mechanics and look of another franchise that you almost immediately totally eclipse. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah,
that's wild. That's Tekken. So why did this movie start? You know, why are we even talking about it? And I think the film series or the series we're doing here on Failure to Franchise kind of tells the story in its own, right? Like fighting video games, they've been trying for a while. And Tekken was just kind of like the next one on the list. Doesn't mean they were waiting to 2010 to make it, but this is something that was announced in 2002. So there's about an 8-year history of really trying to get this off the ground, where producer Stephen Paul, who I mentioned, was actually friends with the founder of Namco. Funny how that works. The founder of Namco, Masaya Nakamura, and they made a deal to get the film rights, and then his production company, Crystal Sky Productions, and then Paramount announced that they were getting the movie made. So from there, they go on to hire some writers, Mike Werb and Michael Kaleri. They were a face-off, so they took a crack at this. They didn't want to clone Mortal Kombat in any way. Like, I know we keep talking about Mortal Kombat a lot in this series, but I think Mortal Kombat really was kind of the benchmark. You know, like critically, it was. You know, I think it's grown over time, and it was successful enough to make a series, like a sequel, which was a piece of shit, by the way. Annihilation is the worst.
Yeah, but a fun piece of shit.
Yes, it's a fun,
a very fun watch, but it's a really strange because you watch it and you have fun watching it, but at the same time you can't help but be disappointed that that's the sequel to the first one, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
So these writers come on and they don't want to clone Mortal Kombat. They don't want to do some secret island. They're sort of doing the tournament, but they have an original idea that, what's his name? Hayachi Mishima, the leader of Tekken, is dying, and that they are using a tournament to test experimental drugs to extend his life, which is kind of cool. It's interesting. They also want to kind of strip away a lot of the supernatural elements as well. And then Namco is kind of supervising at this point still. And they're like, they tell them to, don't do anything provocative with our characters, Nina or Anna, which is pretty rich because if you go look at Nina and Anna's character models that those pigs made, it's just funny. Hey, don't be provocative, but also, hey, they're basically naked in the game anyway. So
somebody needs to show these guys DOA dead or alive.
Yeah, exactly. And then also Stephen Paul, the producer, had like lofty ideas for this one. So they actually went after Jet Li and Jackie Chan for major roles in this. You saw that.
That was interesting to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would have been their first collaboration together in a big way. Yeah.
So they were linked to this project for a few years, actually, just kind of waiting for it to come together. And what happens is they hire Charles Stone III to be the director. He directed Drumline, Mr. 3000, the Budweiser's WhatsApp commercial, and his claim to fame.
Hello? Hey, who? What's up? Nothing, B. Just watching the game, having a bud. What's up with you?
Nothing. Watching the game, having a bud.
True.
What's up? Yo, who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone.
Hello?
What's that? Yo, where's Dookie? Yo, Dookie! Yo. What's that? What's that? Hold on. Hello? So what's up, B?
Watching the game, having a bud.
True.
He makes a deal with Stephen Paul that allows him to rewrite the script. And I mean, we've talked about these types of stories a lot on this podcast, but usually when your writer and your director, when they're fighting over the script and then the director thinks that they can write better than the writers, well,
Yeah.
doesn't really work out. So Stone actually hires his own writing partner to rewrite the script, and Werb and Kaleri leave the project. Sony became the distributor for the film, but then dropped out the moment Charles Stone gets squeezed out. Nobody's agreeing on anything. A couple years go by. Jackie Chan and Jet Li at this point are like, guys, fuck off. like nothing's coming together. And they actually go on to make The Forbidden Kingdom in 2008. So
Yeah.
I've actually never seen that, which is funny because these are two legends. I feel like I should, but I heard it's not good.
It's very okay.
Okay.
You know, it's fine. It's like, I don't hate it, but it's that thing where it's like what I just said about Annihilation, right? Where you can watch it and be like, okay, this is fine. But there's a part of you that's like, this is the Jackie Chan Jet Li movie, you know, after all this time waiting for these two legends to be together. And then it's just like, oh, well, okay.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to, especially your read, because Jackie Chan is like your favorite movie star.
Yeah, it's like, it's not, I mean, I have it on Blu-ray. It's maybe not as awful as you've heard, but it's nothing special either. And I think I only have it on Blu-ray because I bought it like used at a video store or something. I was like, sure, I guess I should have that, you know, but it's not one I return to on a regular basis.
Well, once these big stars like Chan and Lee are done, this movie has like nothing. Like, it doesn't have a distributor, doesn't have stars, doesn't have funding. So the movie that starts to form are made up of no-name actors, really. And they're basically going for resemblances to the characters and more stunt performers to carry the movie along. And that's when Dwight H. Little comes on board, and he has a relationship with the writer, Alan McElroy.
And he has, importantly, we should point out, because we mentioned, you know, Halloween 4 and things like that, but he has directed some martial arts movies by this point, too.
Yes, correct.
He's done Marked for Death with Steven Seagal. And, like, more importantly and better, Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee, which is, you know, pretty decent little, you know, action B movie. So he's got some action movie, martial arts movies, like, chops, you know, to a certain degree. Yeah.
Totally. And then again, they're stripping away the supernatural elements. Remember, I told you that Tekken is a supernatural Shakespearean family feud? Well, they rip out the supernatural elements, the devil
and the
mutations.
animals.
Yeah, and the animals. A lot of the campiness they kind of want to strip away. They want to make it more like Rocky, you know, your sports type movie. And then they also intend for it to be rated R. That doesn't actually happen. I'm sure when we talk about the movie, maybe there's glimpses of the R rating there. But yeah, I mean, that's like the production of it. Like, I kind of wanted to just fly through it because there's not a lot to it, but this is a movie made by a producer who gets the rights, you know, at a discount because he's buddies with the founder, and is kind of racing to a release date of some kind, in some way, shape, or form, you know. And it unfortunately takes 8 years to make it to people's homes, but this is like a passion project. That's how I feel. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's Stephen Paul's passion project more than anyone else. And if it's the passion to make money, or if he actually really did love Tekken as a property, who knows? But this is a producer-driven film.
It's funny, though, because the one thing I would point out about that whole production process and you know, history there is that everything about it feels very reactionary to what's come before. You know,
Yes,
so like
totally.
from the basis of like getting Jackie Chan and Jet Li at the time where they've both become kind of big stars in America. Okay, that makes sense, obviously, right? But like even you saying that the writers were like on record as saying, well, we don't want to, you know, ape Mortal Kombat. And it's like, I feel almost like they're running away from Mortal Kombat Annihilation more because, and maybe they're also thinking of like, not the box office success of, but the critical reaction to Street Fighter, the Jean-Claude Van Damme one, because it is strange. This is something we've mentioned before, but why would you want to run away from Mortal Kombat, which, as you said, maybe wasn't a critical hit, but I think it was always known that that's the one that the fans were like, well, they pretty much got that right, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like you're starting off on a bad foot when you're saying, well, that's not the movie we want to ape. It's like, actually, that's the one you should ape. That's the one that people seem to think got it right. You know, if you want to say we don't want to make an Annihilation, I get it, you know, but I don't know. Right off the bat, there's some warning signals here where, again, when you're saying like, well, they want to get rid of the supernatural stuff, because we've already talked about that in previous episodes. So it'll be interesting to see how we feel like, you know, it all panned out.
I also think it's funny because all, I guess, 3 of these properties we've been talking about over these 4 episodes, all kind of surround itself with a fighting tournament to take down an evil entity or corporation. You know what I mean? So it's funny that the Tekken filmmakers, not only are they saying let's not ape those other fighting game movies, but they're also kind of saying, hey, let's not do what the Tekken franchise is doing anyways. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like the tournament is always the thing we come to see.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the movie because, you know, there is a tournament for quite a long time actually. So we'll get into that. But the supernatural stuff of Mortal Kombat is like kind of the best shit, you know?
It's like you were trying to run away from like what the video game franchise was to ultimately just kind of run around in a circle and come right back to it anyways.
Totally.
Except you've stripped out the element that made it special in the game, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you didn't want to do a tournament, then you kind of walked yourself into a corner and realized, well, I guess we can only really do this with a tournament, but you've removed the supernatural elements and the animals and everything, and you've kind of taken away the identity a little bit, possibly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want to just get into it?
I do.
Burn everything.
Tekken.
Host the Iron Fist tournament in Tekken City.
Winning Iron Fist means power and prestige for Tekken. Means we win in the world.
I know why I'm here.
Where did you get this?
Belonged to my mother.
She was a Tekken fighter.
I came here to kill Mishima. He's gonna pay for what he has done.
Ratings are up. Our viewers love him. He represents a street. Let's see what the street has taught him.
You're tough, man. I used to watch you street fight.
$100,000 to whoever kills that kid. It's nothing. Just another amateur.
Think you gonna puke? I already did that.
You gotta get everyone as quick as you can. You're up, kid. Kill or be killed.
Keep my head in the game if I were you.
Be an asset detector.
I'll never belong to Tekken.
We'll see about that. The remainder of the tournament's fights will be to the death. In the end, you will fail.
You're not just fighting for yourself anymore. You're fighting for all of us.
Nice finish.
The year is 2039. World wars have destroyed everything, and territories are run by corporations, the mightiest and cruelest of which is Tekken. After Jin Kazama witnesses Jim, like fucking from The Office, you know, After Jin Kazama witnesses the death of his mother by Tekken guards in the Anvil slums, he vows vengeance against the corporation. Armed only with his street smarts and raw fighting skills, he enters a dangerous and potentially deadly combat tournament where he must defeat the world's most elite fighters in order to destroy Tekken from within and liberate his people.
That's right. Tekken, a franchise that, as we just established, you and I had pretty much no familiarity with, no history with. So maybe we were like, the right audience for this. Coming in as a blank slate, how did it work for us? So Chris, I'm going to let you go first. How did 2009, 2010, 2011's Tekken play out for you?
There's like two parts of this movie. I would say the first third and then the rest. The first third, I really disliked. And the reason why is it's very, like, me and you try to avoid YA adaptations like the plague.
Yeah.
And
can't avoid them forever, though. They're always right there around the corner.
I know. Sometimes they even rear their ugly heads within your video game series, because the first 30 minutes of this movie is very post-apocalyptic YA mumbo-jumbo. Funny thing, in the beginning, there's a little monologue, of course, which you get with a lot of those YA movies too. But it talks about 8 companies divided up the world. Remember Mutant Chronicles?
Yeah, I know.
It was like the exact same.
But
but it was like the exact same monologue, which is funny to me. But anyway, I bring that up because they say stuff like, their street level currencies, right? Like they have rationing their protein squares, and they're trading for an orange and coffee because it's so, it's so precious now. And there's an underground rebellion against an evil corporate overlord. Just a lot of YA lingo that really just I am immediately like allergic to, So I would say the first 30 minutes I actually just really disliked. But for the next hour, it does become just a big tournament movie. And I'm not here to like truly defend this, because I guess I'm just saying it's okay. Like it's okay at times. It really suffers from stripping those supernatural, fun, campy stuff away. Like it does suffer from that because it loses like its own identity in a lot of ways. Like I mentioned before, that they're going for like a Rocky vibe and like a sports drama vibe, and it's definitely there. Like you can feel that, like the same kind of montaginess in the way that, if when Jin is losing a fight and then he's thinking back to his mother and then he gets back up, and like the crowd's there cheering him on. So there's a lot of those elements. So it feels like a sports movie. And then also a little bit of Running Man, I felt, just because it's like a nationally broadcast event where people are watching people potentially die. It's sort of silly, sort of entertaining, sort of short. I don't think it's actually terrible. Again, I'm not here to really defend it. I'm in that weird precipice where me and you despise, of a movie that's just a movie we watched one day. And I think that's what it is for me. I did not hate this, but I had to watch a recap video before recording this to remember what I watched like 3 days ago. So that's my initial thoughts, I'll say. And then we'll get into specifics after you.
Here's where we're similar. I also was really not enjoying the first half hour. Where we're different is I also did not enjoy the following hour. I'm glad you were able to find a little bit more, positive and some entertainment in this. I'm going to definitely be more negative, but I don't think this is going to be the case where we're like coming to blows about this in any sense. I don't think so. No. Because you just said it, and it just hit on me. It's like, this was another one of those, is this a movie kind of movies to me, where right. I was just watching it. And I think what you said was exactly my problem with it, where because they had removed, and it's like, I only even learned that they removed this stuff after the fact, but it's still very apparent in the movie that this just has no identity of its own. There was nothing to kind of separate this from other movies of its ilk, and there's nothing in here that I haven't seen done better. And there was never any moments where I felt like it was trying to even reach above that and do something new or special. I'm going to make a really weird analogy here, so just bear with me. But this comes out from a conversation you and I were actually having earlier in one of our group threads. And I'm going to tie it into like just an overall conversation we've had before. We were talking about the director Ari Aster. And you had mentioned how you kind of feel like lately he's maybe becoming a little up his own ass for you. And I said, well, I still like him. And this is like a debate you and I have sometimes about like kind of the, more who would be called like pretentious directors. Yeah, right. And I think like the argument I've always had, and you've heard me say it before, is it's fine when people, I really kind of bristle at that as a criticism against like filmmakers like him, when people are like, well, they're up their ass or they're pretentious. It's fine to say they're not your bag. But at a time when like most Hollywood stuff has become so generic and like identity free that I feel I'm always like on the side for these guys who are making some kind of artistic statement, even if it's like confusing to you or something, if it clearly means something to them. So like this is the kind of, and like I bring that up because this is the sort of movie I watch where, you can look at something like DOA and it's a very silly, dumb movie. But you can tell that Corey Yuen is trying to like push forward the silliness and like at least like make like this really cool like big action spectacle and kind of get into like the B movie spirit of it. Even in Street Fighter, which I didn't like, you can tell Steven D'Souza is trying to make a Saturday morning cartoon at times and things like that. I can't really tell you what Dwight Little was going for with this movie. It just felt like he was like, yeah, I got the script. It's Tekken. It's a fighting game. I guess I'll put the camera down. We'll film the fights, and I'll just make it like every other movie like this. And right. So I just felt entirely checked out throughout the entire movie because there were no characters that were interesting. There was no dialogue that was fun. I can't remember a single line. Like again, there's not a performance.
You don't remember the 500 times they say Tekken?
I mean, it's like a Bisonopolis all over, but there's no like really good performance, but there's also no Chris Klein in this either, that was like so bad that I kind of have some fun with it. So this was just like a total like flat line from beginning to end to me. And that, like you said, that's kind of like the worst experiences I have where it's like, I guess it's like, it's functionable, to a certain degree. And yes, it has the tournament, which I kept asking for these movies to have, but, yeah, just I don't know. I was
not
just
like this, not like this,
not like this. Yeah, I just felt entirely checked out because it just felt like there was nothing I hadn't seen before, and I just was waiting for like, what's this movie going to do that's different? What's its thing? And I think the movie struggles to ever find that, and sometimes I felt like it wasn't even attempting to establish that. So yeah, this is like a big bummer for me, honestly.
Yeah, no, and again, I'm not really going to push back on much. Mind you, I would watch an Ari Aster Tekken movie for sure.
Well, I would too, yeah.
and also to go back on that, I do obviously like Ari Aster, and I think he's very audacious. I always say that. Mm-hmm. And like I said, sometimes he's a little too personal. That I'm like, this is your diary now. And you have some mom problems and you need to go see a shrink. Clearly, or something.
Yeah. I would like to know what Ari Aster's mom did to him. That's
Yikes. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, what I'll say, because I want to be a little positive up top before we inevitably rip this thing to shreds, right? Mm-hmm. Right. As much as they were like, let's not make a Mortal Kombat movie, I do love that they cast Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, Shang Tsung himself, in this, which is hilarious because fucking what's his nuts, Liu Kang Robin Shu was popping up in all the other goddamn movies we're making.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I was just waiting for him to show up in this. It's like, come on, you got Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, like why just bring them both in?
Yeah. So I like seeing him, and I actually like his look. His look to Mishima is pretty close to the character in the game, and it's like that little glimpse of video gamey stuff. You know what I mean? Like not fantastical to have a weird haircut, but it is nice to see some iconography. And also
it kind of does stick out like a sore thumb a little bit though, right? Because for that reason, right, where he stands out
until the tournament because all the fighters
he's the most cartoony looking character though. Like, so it is kind of, I'd say he's the only one who looks cartoony, and like it just because of how extreme that look is. So it was kind of jarring every time he was on screen.
I guess so. I mean, all the other fighters look exactly like they do in the games. So,
Yeah.
you know, like,
but that just
really
means they're like, oh, they have the right pants or something, right? None of them have like a crazy like look to them like he does.
That's fair. Okay. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
But I did like seeing when they're listing off all the fighters and their costumes, their signature moves. They're all working out, and they're kind of embracing the game in a lot of ways there, rather than some fucking Hunger Games revenge movie. Like, again, the first half hour I really have nothing good to say about, honestly. But we get to the tournament fairly quickly, and I really liked incorporating the game mechanics of like character selects and like the stages changing. Like, it never ever explains that the stages change to different, like Japan or like a temple or whatever, but they change with every fight, which was cool. Little things like that were just like, okay, if we just push it that much further and you have something really good, you know what I mean? Again, that fantasticalness, it doesn't do what DOA does, you know, where there was like health bars.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wish it was like that for this one. And one thing I did like, I thought there was like a surprising level of like sexiness to this movie. You know, you're definitely not aware of Kelly Overton's Christy Montero and her ass crack pants. And there was a lot of like sensual makeouts that you don't really see in a movie like this. And there was like 2 sex scenes. One that's a threesome with one of the characters bent over looking behind at Kazuya. I found that was like, whoa.
Not just a threesome with sisters. So let's give credit where credit's due. Yeah.
Where credit is due. So I appreciate in all the conversation we have of like a complete lack of sex in movies. Not to say this is the benchmark or nothing, but like, it was like, oh, this movie's actually got like some sexiness to it, which was cool. This is what happens when you have beautiful athletes together. Like, everybody knows what happens in Olympic Village. They're all fucking. That's what happens. So it was kind of like, you know, I appreciated that. A little bloodier than Mortal Kombat 2. You know, like there was some actual like real injuries and bloodiness to it. But again, not enough. You know what I mean? Like, it's like just coming up to the line and then retreating. And I did find that frustrating, you know?
On like every element you just said, like, you know, when this movie ended, my wife asked me, because I kind of made my thoughts clear right away. She's like, well,
you threw a baseball at the TV.
She asked me like, what's, you know, is there any positive element you can think of? And I struggled at the time, and only later did I realize, and so I'll say it now, that I guess production design would be like my compliment on it, because I think you're right that some of the stages they fight on are interesting. But at the same time, I think it is funny that, as you mentioned, and maybe they don't need this, but I think it's funny that they never quite explain how that works when they like, you know, will pick like, and it's suddenly they're fighting in this new environment, but you don't see the environment change. It's just suddenly there. And even like when they do the one, it's like the first fight, I think, and they say like ancient temple or something, and just a screen appears behind them that shows the ancient temple. And it's like, so you're kind of just fighting in front of that like screen that they filmed Star Trek Strange New Worlds in front of. Like, that's really all they're doing. But then there'll also suddenly be like props there from the temples too, and it just it did remind me of Hunger Games, where they, in the first movie, where they show how they can kind of create those like the forest and everything, like with holograms and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of, but they never really made that tech clear in this. But even like the sexiness you said, like, I guess, I mean, yes, there are attractive people in this. I don't know that I agree it's like that sexy of a movie just because there's attractive people wearing, you know, showing their butt crack in their pants. I thought
what I mean is like, think about the way it's filming like makeouts, you know, like it's when especially like the scene where Jin and Christy go to that club, like they're making out like you do at clubs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to, there is an added level of intensity to their acting. That's how I would say it.
Well, it's two attractive people who've got to make out, you know, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, but we see that in a movie. We see that in movies a lot, and they're not like tongue down each other's throats.
I'd say where my issue is just kind of more what you were alluding to, where it's like where the movie doesn't want to go any further with it, because the movie like never wants to commit to that relationship, right? And it's almost like the movie remembers, oh shit, we gave him another girlfriend at the beginning of this movie. They kind of forgot about her, so they never really want to take Christy and Jin like further than just that like one makeout. And like for the rest of the movie, they're kind of like chased towards each other, and then they even kind of like keep showing the girlfriend watching his final fights and reminding you that she exists. And even like spoiler, at the very end of this movie is like him walking up to her, but the movie just cuts to credits before we see any conversation or like, yeah, by the way, I maybe met someone else, you know. So it's like the movie doesn't really know how to commit to any of that. So yeah, I agree with you that like even on the positives, it's like I don't know, maybe it keeps like butting up against like some potential, but there's just like I hate to keep saying this because I know it's not the case. Like this is a movie that obviously I'm sure a lot of people worked very hard on, but it's the kind of movie I watch and I really feel like just no passion from anyone involved. And this is not a comment about what you were just saying with the makeout scene. I just mean in like every element of it. Like I get that they put a lot of work into making the costumes video game accurate. Obviously, they put a lot of work into the production design, but on just a general overall level, it just feels like everyone's kind of checked out. Like they just know they're making this like movie that's just, you know, we're just making this video game movie or whatever, and like no one's trying super hard. Like even I felt that way about the fight choreography too, where it's all for like they make such a big deal about casting like, you know, real fighters and real stunt performers, and at least one of them, like an actor I really wanted to highlight that I was kind of excited to see it in this because it's like, well, this means some of the fights will be good, is Gary Daniels, plays Brian Fury. I've actually mentioned Gary Daniels in this series before. He's the guy that plays the fighter who turns into Ken in the Street Fighter scene in City Hunter. So he's you know, he's fought Jackie Chan in like some of the Hong Kong movies. And after that, he had like this little run where he was, you know, like an above the title guy in like a bunch of like straight to video action movies of like the late 80s and early 90s. And so you're like, oh, okay, they got Gary Daniels. You know, oh, I remember he was the lead in the live action Fist of the North Star movie. So I thought maybe the fights would at least be something memorable. And I don't know, I'm sitting here struggling and like, do I remember any of the fights? Like not the same degree I do with like the DOA fights, which I watched longer ago, you know? So again, it just kind of feels like everything just felt half-hearted to me.
Yeah, and again, I can't really disagree in a lot of that. It's John Fu, who plays Jin Kazama, he's a good stunt guy, you know, like, and he's got like a lot of physicality to him, and he actually did work on The Protector with Tony Jaa, you know, the movie where they throw the elephant. Remember that? So he's got the stunt chops for sure, and he looks the part. He looks exactly like Jin does in the game. They gave him the haircut. He gets the fucking power gloves at a certain moment. And he is totally the living embodiment of that character. Unfortunately, as the Lord giveth, he taketh. And the Lord giveth John Fu a beautiful body, an incredible stunt performance, and he just cannot carry a movie. And it's unfortunate that this, again, Shakespearean family feud has to revolve around him because it just does not work. I think Ian Anthony Dale, who plays Kazuya, is sort of getting what the movie is and what it's going for. He's got a little bit of the camp in the side of his eye, you know? But John Fu just doesn't reach there. And because they've stripped away the supernatural elements, it does fall flat. So if you're trying to be a Rocky movie where, you know, you win, you know, I know in Rocky, spoilers for Rocky 1, but, you know, doesn't win. But there's like a fist pump to what our character went through, you know? In this movie, you should have that fist pump moment of, he fucking did it. You know, he took down Tekken. He's the fucking dude to liberate the slums that he grew up in. And, you know, people will you know, at the very end of the movie, there's a line that he's monologuing, you know, it's like a voiceover. It's like the true legacy of Tekken was only just beginning. And then the movie ends and I'm like, what legacy?
Well, I wanted. Can I say what I think is the problem with
please.
You know, the movie on a structural just base level is to what you just said. The movie and the script never bothers trying to make clear what exactly that means to take down Tekken, and especially to take down Tekken through this tournament. I never understood for a second why Jin would think that entering this tournament gives him a chance to make any kind of big inroads into taking down this corporation. I get the corporation puts it on, but like as the movie goes along, things happen and things fall into place where ultimately he ends up fighting Kazuya Mishima, but that's not what is meant to happen in the tournament when he enters it. Like to his degree, he's only going to fight all these other fighters who are not really Tekken employees, right? They're just other fighters in the world. So that doesn't make any sense. And then even when the movie does, put the pieces together so that ultimately we find out this whole family drama and he finds out he's part of this family and he does get to fight, his own father, Star Wars vibes here, his evil father that he didn't know about. And, there is an element of like, okay, so now he's like actually fighting against Tekken, like symbolizing this person. Then it's like spoiler alert, he wins, obviously. He's the hero of the day. And the movie has this like, wants us to be like, oh man, he really did it. And I'm like, well, what did he do? Can you tell me like at the end of the movie, like what he has accomplished and what that means? Because he doesn't kill Kazuya at the end of the fight. So they show him walking out and they treat it like such a heroic moment. And all I was thinking was, it's not like he gained control of the corporation. Like Kazuya will still be the guy in charge of Tekken. Like nothing changes tomorrow from what just happened. So I just didn't understand, like the movie never... that's like a real big problem with the movie on a script level is I never felt emotionally invested because I didn't get what he was trying to accomplish, and I'm not sure he did accomplish anything at the end. So that's like a pretty big problem when I'm watching even a short movie. I'm like, I want some kind of resolution at the end here.
Totally. And I think especially because me and you are coming to this movie without knowing anything. And then, of course, reading later that, yes, the idea is this tournament's held and you have a chance to, like, be the head of Tekken. So, okay, fair enough. I get it. So there, again, it goes, what I was saying a few times is, like, it's coming up to the line of something and then like, doing backflips to get away from it. So it's coming up to the line of Jin is going to be the head of Tekken, but then, yes, he does not kill Kazuya because sequels, obviously. And then... again, what does that mean when he's walking down the street and people are cheering his name and he's the people's fighter, this and that? It's like, well, they can just fucking pop him in the back of the head with a sniper right now. Like it's like he has no security. He has no. I mean, I guess the guards do. They do treat him like he's a leader of some kind. But again, what does that mean?
Because it's even like they're like, oh, he sure showed that evil corporation. Now watch as he triumphantly walks back to the same slums that he lived in before, where all of his friends and family still do live under control of this military force that we still see. Like,
totally. And like these still 8 companies are still divided the world. There's they set this world building up, but really just don't commit to the rules of the world. And I completely agree. And that's why the movie just doesn't hit the way, a sports movie should.
And like on that sports movie level too, like what you were saying about how you want to see the big triumphant moment where it all comes together. And it's like, the movie can't even get that right because, his last official fight in the tournament is against Brian Fury, the Gary Daniels character. Now, we should say throughout the movie, there keeps being these little hints until finally they just come out and say it, that Brian Fury has been like enhanced, or he's a cyborg essentially. He's made himself into a robot, which is very, very funny because like they removed all the supernatural stuff, they removed the animals, but they're like cyborgs. That's cool, So they leave that in, so which makes it, he's the reigning champion. You realize, well, it's because he has this unfair advantage, right? He's not just human. He's like, and they have scenes where people will punch him, and it's like, oh my god, you're punching metal, And then we get to like the final fight between him and Jin, and they do the typical which I'd expect to see, and I'm not criticizing this because it works every time. They cut to him training as a young child with his mother. By the way, I'm pretty like the kid playing him when he's young, like does not, again, it's that same thing again where it's like does not look like him at all. I'm not going to go any further than that. But they show the mom training him. And she's talking about how for any fighter, you just have to find that certain weakness, right? There's something that, there's some kind of innate thing about everyone's strength that is a weakness. And you're like, okay, so we're going to watch him because he's figured out that Brian Fury is a robot. And you're like, wow, we're going to find, he's going to like figure out how to turn that against Brian Fury. And then he just jumps up in the air and comes down and punches him in the head. It's like, well, wait, what? How is that Fury's weakness? What did that have to do with him being a robot? It's just like... nothing, right? It's like you missed the opportunity you were even just setting up 10 seconds ago. Like he should have like found a way to electrocute him, right? Or get him to like pumped up so fast that it like, short circuits him or something. And it just doesn't do that. So I'm like, wait, what is this? Yeah.
Yeah, no rebuttal on that one.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe it was the mood I was in. I don't know.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Kelly Overton's pants. I think it just got to you. I think.
Speaking of, I think we have mentioned her in the Van Helsing episode because she led the gender swapped TV show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she's a beauty. I will say that she's a beauty.
What she is not is Brazilian, and Christy Montero is Brazilian in the games. She's a Brazilian capoeira expert, so that is officially a whitewashed character in this. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, but those pants, she could be Brazilian.
What'd you think about her toes?
Oh my God, what a line! What a line!
So I guess I lied. I said I didn't remember any lines. That one just popped into my head. But
yeah, see, there's even a fetish thing in there too. See, this movie's got sex appeal. There's something going on here. Yeah, that was a weird line. Yeah, I do not disagree with most of your comments for sure. This movie definitely deserves to be direct to DVD. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. It's got even the feel of it too. So no wonder Anchor Bay was the one to say, "Oh yeah, this is in our wheelhouse for sure." But I guess I just had a little bit more. I don't even want to say the word fun, but a little bit more entertainment, I guess, with the tournament.
Forgiveness. Did it bother you at the end that, like, okay, here's another example.
Did you say
of
forgiveness?
Like
forgiveness? That makes sense. Yeah, that's good. That's a good word.
Another example of how bad the script is, and I'm guessing you probably picked up on this too. So we get to a point where, Kazuya takes over the tournament from his father. His more benevolent father, I guess, to a certain degree, although he's still the guy that ran this evil corporation. But whatever. But he takes over. And at this point, he has now found out that Jin is actually his son because, again, I keep saying spoiler alert as if this matters. But we find out that the entire reason Jin's mother, when he was young, was so against the Tekken Corporation is that she actually was like a Tekken fighter. She worked for the corporation, but she was raped by Kazuya. And he is the result of that rape. So Kazuya is his father. And he finds this out during the course of the movie, and so does Kazuya. So now you have this dad trying to make sure his son loses. When again, I just thought on a logical level, he could just have him killed at any time, but he could also just kind of cover up that information so it wouldn't even matter that this guy's his son. Whatever, right? Yeah. It builds to this this final fight between them. Oh boy, what was I just lost the point I was trying to make.
You forgot the movie and your point mid thought.
I know. See, this is the thing. This is very telling of Tekken. Hold on, I want to get back to what I was trying to say.
Well, maybe I'll reinvigorate what you're thinking and cut me off the moment you remember. But that evil creation of Jin is the perfect way to bring in that supernatural demon aspect. Yeah. And it's hinted, again, comes up to the line and then fucking cartwheels away. Cause there's a moment where
oh, I got it. I just remembered. But you finish your sentence though, because I got it now. Yeah.
There's a moment where Hayachi Mishima talks about Kazuya and saying that, there's some sort of sadistic side to him that I've never really been able to control. There's something bad about him. And then him creating his own heir in the vein of something horrific. It's man, at that end fight, if that fucking demon came out of him and just beat his shitty dad's ass, that would be the fist pump moment, right? So to completely excise that out is just bafflingly stupid. So
not only would it be a fist pump moment, but it would be oh my God, how emotionally compelling would that be too, right? It's yes, I was able to beat my father and take on the evil corporation, but I did it by becoming a demon. Oh my God, am I going to become my father?
Exactly.
And then you end the movie on such a more compelling cliffhanger, right?
Drama.
Oh my God. Because I even know from our research of the games that Kazuya was the hero in the first game, and then he becomes the villain of the later games after the events of the second one. So it's you could try to do something like that. No, the point I was going to make, because I was criticizing the script, is that when Kazuya takes over the corporation from his dad and seemingly has his dad killed, stay tuned to the post-credit scene, he seemingly has his dad killed, takes over, he then establishes a new role in the tournament, right, where he says, well, from now on, all the fights have to be to the death. And we then watch Brian Fury fight Sergei Dragunov, the Russian fighter, to the death. And then we go right to the finals. And it's Brian Fury versus Jin. And I'm well, wait a minute. there are still a lot of people left in the tournament. In fact, you have Christy Montero, you're holding her hostage, but that means she's not dead. Shouldn't she have to fight first? Like, that made, like, again, like, this is the thing where we said, like, I kind of had the same complaint about DOA. I think it's even more apparent in this one, where they just skip so many fights.
Yes.
And if you're trying to, like, logically follow the tournament, it makes no sense, because we should have seen like 4 more fighters have to fight to the death before we have the final fight between Brian and Jin. So I was like wondering what happened to there to him. I know obviously it's like a budgetary thing and they can't film these fights, but it's just annoying. Yeah.
So you want to hear what original Tekken game director Katsuhiro Harada said about this movie?
Yeah. Do you like it?
His exact quote was, "That Hollywood movie is terrible. We were not able to supervise that movie. It was a cruel contract. I am not interested in that movie." So he did not like it. And then right away, Bandai Namco went into production on a CGI Tekken film called Blood Vengeance that came out in 2011. So 1 year later, as a response to this movie. And it's apparently it takes place between Tekken 5 and 6. But basically they made this movie purely to stop people remembering the live action movie and to like kind of wipe it from the ether. And honestly, I think it kind of worked, because again, I'm not a Tekken head, and I've never seen that CGI movie, but I'm sure that Tekken heads have. You know what I mean? It's like, if Bandai Namco says, don't watch that, watch this, that's what the fandom's going to do. And Tekken is very hard to find to actually watch right now. It's it's a movie that we didn't even know existed until a couple of years ago. Hell, we didn't know about that sequel prequel that we're going to talk about right away. Like, this is a movie that feels, for again, the 3rd or 4th best selling fighting video game in the history of the world. Pretty incredible that 2010 production is like just, deleted.
Yeah, like the video game series missed me, but I was always aware of its existence. I just didn't play them. This is a movie that just like totally missed me, to where I did not know this thing existed until, like I said, I was looking at some list trying to create a list for us. And like, obviously the movie must have its fans. As I said, one of our listeners I know reached out and, wanted to inform me about the sequel. And I believe also said that they own both Tekken movies on DVD. So, obviously there are people that disagree with me. I hate that, they're listening to us now, like probably very angry at me, but yeah, it's even some straight to DVD movies at the time gained like a little bit more clout and a little bit more of an audience, but this one really feels like it came and went. And I think you're probably right. I think that's probably almost by, I don't want to say design, but I think Namco has put the work in to kind of erase this movie from there's no support, and when you have the company themselves talking shit about it, like that's one thing you have to say about Capcom is like, well, they were obviously involved in the production of the 2 Street Fighter movies, so that's proof that not having the company involved doesn't always mean it's going to turn out perfect anyways. But like, they didn't run away from those movies either. It's not like they have like blacklisted those movies or say they just shouldn't exist or anything. So yeah, that's probably helped this movie basically have no reputation whatsoever.
No, and it's not for lack of trying either, because Stephen Paul, the producer, still had the rights to this franchise, and they immediately did start pre-production on a sequel. Yes. And it was called Tekken Rise of the Tournament, and it actually had the
very
original
weird title.
Yes. And they had signed the Ong Bak director for this one. So Stephen Paul is on record saying, we didn't know what this movie was going to be at all. And that's pretty telling, because this movie fell apart immediately. The script never came together. And then all of a sudden, Crystal Sky Pictures produces a prequel called Tekken 2 Kazuya's Revenge. So I know the script didn't come together for Rise of the Tournament. I'm so tired of hearing Rise in titles, by the way, especially around this time. I felt like it was everywhere. But it makes sense that they had no idea what they were going to do. Prequel, sequel, whatnot. And making this quote-unquote prequel, by most accounts, this is like almost a complete reboot. Like, there's no returners whatsoever in this. and
well, there's a couple actually. Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa and Gary Daniels are both in it. Yeah.
Oh, they are in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Why?
I don't know. And let me tell you something else. I watched the trailer for it. There was like a brief moment where it's like, because they're both on Tubi, and I was like, do I dare press play just to really impress Chris with my? And I was like, you know what? I'll look at the trailer. I'll make a determination. There was no way I was pressing play on this after watching the trailer because yes, visually it looks much cheaper. You know, it's like not post-apocalyptic, which I'm guessing was primarily a budgetary decision. It looks like it's mostly being filmed in like outside of high schools. Like that's kind of what it looked like to me, like on the athletic like field of a high school. But the strangest thing about it is, as you said, it is about Kazuya, the villain of the first movie. He's no longer being played by, what was the actor's name? The one guy who says pretty good. Yeah, it's not him. It's actually Kane Kasugi, who was in DOA. We talked about him last time.
Yep.
The son of Sho Kazugi. So he, there's a through line to DOA. He plays Kazuya. But the really strange thing about the movie is that it's called Kazuya's Revenge, which as a title you would think makes more sense as a sequel title, obviously.
Yeah, the number 2 also does that to you.
Yes, but it is a prequel, and it's like a prequel where it's like his hero's journey. He's like the hero, and it's like you're watching like this story about him, I think, finding out his identity and who he is. And I was like, yeah, that's where I was like, I watched the whole trailer, and I'm like, what? Like, you wanted me to watch this prequel about the hero's journey of this guy that we know later becomes this evil rapist? No, I'm good. Actually.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, it's a very, very odd decision, and when you say it feels like a reboot, I think that speaks to that, right? Where they're just like, oh shit, we still got the rights. We didn't get to do the sequel we wanted to, and so they just kind of scramble this together. And I mean, I don't even know if this movie got like a DVD release here. I think because I know I read it. On Wikipedia, its box office is listed as $9,240, and then it says in parentheses Singapore. So I think it just had a little release in Singapore, and that's about it.
So your friend has a bootleg copy.
Yeah, maybe who knows? Anchor Bay will put out anything, but I don't know.
I wonder if cary-hiroyuki Tagawa is in more than, what do you think, 1 minute?
Yeah, even that, like, he doesn't have like the crazy hair either. He just like looks like regular
Cary-Hiroyuki
Tagawa. Like, so yeah, maybe he was even just like, I'm not putting that wig on again for this one, But...
Yeah, so again, we're spending a little bit more time here about this prequel just purely because, not to say screw you, it's our show, we can make the rules, but also it really does feel out of place. This was one of those panic attempts of like, oh my God, that fucking failed. We have the rights. We have to make something, make it. We don't know what to do. Make it a prequel. Maybe we'll see what happens. Throw a 2 on it. Maybe we can get some people that are like confused. Like it's a total what of a production to get the quote unquote franchise going again.
It even feels like, I don't want to, sinister is not the right word, but by the time, because it's 5 years later that they do this sequel, prequel. And like by that point, Namco and like the creator of Tekken have clearly made their thoughts heard about it, So like for them to like just go ahead, plow ahead and make this movie when they even know the video game company and makers don't want them to be doing these. That's what I think is like really brazen and interesting about the sequel, where they're just like, well, you sold us the rights for a certain amount of time. We're going to go ahead and do it. And it's like, it's almost like confrontational to make the second movie in a way.
Well, especially it's released August of 2014 and then Tekken 7 comes out beginning of 2015. So it's like, yeah, it does feel a little bit of a slap in the face. In some respect, for sure. Which is sad to say because it all started from a friendship of sorts, between the founder of Namco and Stephen Paul. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for sure. But definitely we are not watching that. We're making a claim. Okay, I got to ask you. Obviously, we know the answer of this. Did this deserve sequels? No and no. So
no.
I got to ask you, did it hurt that we watched this after DOA? but then also just a general ranking of this series we've done, because I've quite enjoyed it. Like I said before, regardless of the positives and negatives, I think this series was one of our most fun, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah,
it was just very interesting to talk about, and it was cool to dive deep into the history of fighting games. Honestly. Anyway, I'll throw it to you. What's your ranking? What do you think? Final thoughts.
I don't know that I would. To answer the two questions, I don't know that I would say it hurt that we watched it after DOA. I think I would have felt the same way no matter what. I think it was interesting watching it after DOA because it did kind of amplify some of the problems with this movie. You know, like in being able to make that comparison. So yeah, because to rank them, I would clearly put DOA first, and that DOA is the only one that I kind of unabashedly just liked and would say, like, no, I don't like that ironically. Some people would think that's what I am saying, but like, no, it's a movie that is meant to be silly. Yeah. It is silly, and I had a great time with it. It's awesome. Then this is probably going to be controversial, but you have to understand from this point on, I am ranking what I consider 3 bad movies. So I'm going to base it entirely on what I would most like to rewatch and why. And so for me, my number 2 is probably Legend of Chun-Li.
Oh my God, you bastard.
It's so close though. I made this point in the Chun-Li episode, right? Where I said I made this point in the episode, and it's very close. And it's not even, I get it. I get that probably the not even probably, the Van Damme one is a better movie. But I think because the Chun-Li one was made like so earnestly, but turned out so terrible, especially like the Chris Klein performance. Right. That to me is like a little bit more of the sweet spot of like what I like for like enjoyable bad movies. Although it's not like I find either of them very enjoyable. And then number 3 would be Street Fighter, the Van Damme one. And I said, like, my problem with that is that I get why other people like it. I have no problems with people kind of looking at that as like a cult film and like a fun, campy thing. But I think the fact that it's trying to be that at times and kind of falling on its face with a lot of like bad humor and everything, there's really not much there for me other than the Raul Julia performance. So yeah, I don't know. It's really close. I don't really want to like revisit either of those, but I maybe Legend of Chun-Li just so I can laugh at Chris Klein. And then coming in very dead last for me is Tekken, because that's the thing is like, at least with the 2 Street Fighter movies, I think they're both bad, but there is something about them where to me they're entertaining on a campy level. But Tekken is, like we said, it's just, to me, it's the ultimate kind of like nothing movie where it never gets bad enough to where I'm having fun with it, and it's never good enough for me to be engaged with it. So I just sit there and like it washes over me. And as you said, I'm already forgetting it as we're talking about it.
Me DOA by a mile. That's a movie that I might actually buy that movie. Like that was a great time. And an awesome conversation in the episode. Then Street Fighter 94. I had some fun with that. I didn't love it like a lot of Street Fighter heads do, but the Raul Julia performance is great. JCVD is doing JCVD things. Love seeing Kylie Minogue. There's some stuff that I did like in there. Then it's Tekken. I've said some positivity in this one. I think compared to you, I think this one embraced, as much as it did not embrace of the IP, it still had enough for me to get some enjoyment out of it. And then dead last is Chun-Li. I think Chun-Li is just an absolute piece of shit. That is a movie that denies itself being a video game movie, denies itself being a Street Fighter movie, denies itself being... It's just a mess of an ill-intentioned maximum ride level Hollywood production. So yeah, not into that one. So that's my ranking. But
can I run this by you? And I just want to check on something, because I was willing to change my ranking if I hadn't confirmed this, but I just did. My ranking is going to stay in the same place because the Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter is 1 hour and 42 minutes, and Legend of Chun-Li is only 1 hour and 36 minutes. So if I had to watch one of them again, at least I save a precious, 4 or 5 minutes there. So
the man who watched the trailer and almost watched Tekken 2 Kazuya's Revenge.
Hey, that's the thing. It's like I wasted like 3 minutes of my life on that trailer. I gotta be careful about this moving forward.
Okay, that will do it for this series on Failure to Franchise. Fighting Video Lames.
Shoryuken! Hadouken! Chicken.
It was great. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Okay, guys, Trev, women, anyone listening? Hello, anyone. We are going into a new theme, and it is a theme that is an annual tradition, Summer Surprise. This is where we take a large chunk of our movie list and throw it into a random generator to let us know what we will be talking about for the next couple months. So it's sometimes hard to put these themes together.
Yeah.
Like, and
we eventually will. I mean, there will come a point where we won't be doing themes anymore, because we just won't be able to work it out. But
totally. Like right now, we've got a good, like I would say, like 30 movies that are combined into certain themes that we can plug and play throughout the next, however long. But yeah, there is a large chunk that we just don't really want to do. or just can't place them. So this is a great idea. We've been doing it since the inception of this podcast. So love Summer Surprise. So are you ready, Trev?
I'm ready. And how many do we have this time? Because I know we had like an abbreviated Summer Surprise last year, but I think
this one? For like the actual length of time that we're doing it? We have 5 spots. So,
okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, July 1st, July 15th, July 29th, August 12th, August 26th. So, yeah, we actually got a lot. That's great. Wow. Okay, awesome.
So let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. So, July 1st, Canada Day, by the way, we will be looking at Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, my God. All right.
Okay. All right. July 15th, we will be covering Beautiful Creatures.
Oh no! The YA world. The YA world is.
This is what you've done to us, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you said, we can't avoid the YA forever. Yeah.
Okay. Now, July 29th, we're watching, maybe reluctantly. I Spy.
Okay.
That's
Owen Wilson and Eddie Murphy, I believe. Yes.
Oh, look at that. Okay, moving on. August 12th, we are looking at The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
All right. Eli Roth, children's film.
Yeah, timely with all his Instagram posts.
Hey, maybe we should focus on the Jack Black part of it.
Hey, timely with him too.
Yeah.
Being
America's
a traitor.
sweetheart.
Being a traitor to his fucking band. Okay. Okay. And finally, August 26th, to cap off Summer Surprise 2025, we're looking at... Oh, fuck off.
Oh, man. Are we finishing strong?
No, we're not. We are watching the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
You couldn't ask for a better finale to Summer Surprise than the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Oh my God. One I did not ever want to see on this list ever, and you snuck it on, you son of a bitch. Wow, miserable.
Well, here's what I have to say. That is a very eclectic mix for Summer Surprise. So that's what I do like.
Those are 5 movies we would never know where the fuck to put them.
Well, I would argue to put Elvira anywhere. And I don't mean that you take that however you want. I promise not to be. I'll try not to be incredibly intolerable during that episode. But
yeah, I would. I might have to mute you for the first time. Okay, that is what we're doing. Did you write them down?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, read them off again, please.
So we have Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, Beautiful Creatures, I Spy, The House with a Clock in Its Walls, and the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
And with that, follow along at F2FPod. That's at F2, the number 2 FPod on all the socials. Like us there, like us everywhere. I will be unfollowing us at this point. Rate, review, whatever you do. A star rating or a little review would be excellent, especially with what's to come. And just join the tribe and hit that subscribe. And let's do it. Summer Surprise 2025.
Sorry, get all your friends in now. Recommend the show to friends. Give everyone listening. You don't want to be one of the, because obviously after the Beautiful Creatures episode, we're gonna hit big, and you want to get on the ground floor before that. You want to be an F2F hipster.
We have seen a nice steady increase in listenership over the last 5 years, and enough to make this so worth it, and we have so much fun doing it. I am looking forward to the cliff that's about to occur. That's, you know what? That's gonna show the true listeners. If you're a true F2F fan, what should we? We've never coined our fandoms, like our fans. Have we ever coined them?
No, we have not.
Failure to franchise.
Sure.
Okay, if you're a failure to franchise, we'll know. We'll know.
Hey, Chris, do me a favor. Can you tell me again what's the date for the Beautiful Creatures episode?
Oh my God, is this a Matrix moment?
Just tell me again. What's the date?
That was July 15th, right? That was the second one?
July 15th. I want to point out, on July 11th, there's a little movie coming out. You might have heard of it, called Superman. It's from James Gunn. You probably didn't know that part. But I was just looking at the cast list for Beautiful Creatures, and it happens to star one Rachel Brosnahan, who will be playing Lois Lane in Superman that week.
Okay. I'll take it.